We are live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pebble, a startup podcast which is specially built around startups in deep tech and entrepreneurs who are making the news. I'm your host and founder, Vishal Krishna. I have with me a special guest. I have Sonam Motwani, the founder and CEO of Karkhana.io. How are you, Sonam?
Hey, hi Vishal. I'm doing great.
No, thanks to be on this
It's my
podcast.
pleasure to be here.
No, I'm so happy you're here because SMEs are close to my heart. I have to give an introduction to Karkhana. So, ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Karkhana.io is a startup that enables a SME to find a reliable manufacturing partner. It enables quick design validation and transparent pricing and on-demand manufacturing of parts, all from your computer. By the way, a little bit about Sonam. She's an alumnus of IIT Bombay. She graduated in 2013 and moved on to work with the likes of P&G before starting up in 2018. Sonam, that's quite a resume, and you're also into racing. So we'll get into that in a bit. Let's start with your student life, or what do you want to start with? Let's talk about Karkhana and what it does, and then go into your student life. We have to cover the history, of course. What does Karkhana do, and why is it important for manufacturers to come and check out Karkhana? Over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Vishal, first of all. So Karkhana is essentially an online manufacturing platform that is built with the vision to simplify manufacturing for businesses across all different industries, across all sizes. And the way we are going about it is digitalizing the existing manufacturing ecosystem. So essentially, we work with a large number of manufacturers and aggregate their capacity. And on top of that, through the platform, we build a layer of technology, which is intended to essentially provide a better manufacturing experience to the demand side or to the purchasers who are looking to manufacture custom parts and components. So here we are focusing on products that are not available off the shelf or are not available in any catalog, but have to be built as per specifications, as per designs that different businesses own. So in a way, custom manufacturing and on-demand manufacturing through an aggregated ecosystem of suppliers.
That's pretty deep and in-depth. And I think I was telling you yesterday that we needed something like this because all manufacturers struggle with closing the loop with the ecosystem, right? You know, and we have everybody claims different numbers. People say that there are 50 million SMEs in India, but you then told me that there are about 3 lakh manufacturing units in India. That's a large universe by itself. That's about 300,000. And most of these are SMBs in the range of 5 to 100 crores or what range do they come into?
Yeah, so if broadly we go by the size of business that these companies do, there are very, very, I would say, micro manufacturers who would be under 5 crore turnover annually. And then we also have manufacturers with 50 to 100 crore turnover on an annual basis. So it's quite a diversity, but we have more number of manufacturers on the smaller side. So rather 85% of the ecosystem in manufacturing in India is comprised of micro and small manufacturing units with, a capacity, I would say an installed capacity of anywhere between 10 to 20 machines with 20 to 50 size of workforce. So that's the majority that comprises in the.
You know, we've all read about when you enter business school, right? We have even in school we have definitions of what SMEs are. What it's about, they say 10 lakhs to 15 lakhs or something in plant and machinery or something of that sort.
Yeah.
But going by what you said, I think that's an interesting example that you brought in, right? Do we have to look at installed capacity to work with them, or should we look at the investments that they've made? Or what is some of the things that you would define an SME as, in your perspective as Karkhana?
I think it is. So if we talk about installed capacity, or be it investments, like investments are what build the installed capacity. I think it is, in a way, behaviorally what an SME means is that it's still a very small organization and has a
Correct.
huge potential to grow. But there are certain factors or certain limitations in place, and if the investments are made in those right places, the amount of growth that such companies can have is multifold year on year than say being single percentages or max double-digit percentages on a yearly basis. So companies that still have a very huge potential to grow and are still very lean in the current scenario. And if investments are made in the right places, they can unlock that potential. That is how we generally look at MSMEs.
That's lovely. That sets the context to the story. I want to go back to the backstory now. Not many want to work with the SMB segment, and I'm so glad that Karkhana is doing this. But I want to go back to your school days. You were in IIT Bombay. What your time there would have been spent with brilliant people, and
definitely
some of the learnings would have been amazing. And I wanted to use that as a context to say that why you went from there, went to PNG after that. You understood a few things and then started, Karkhana, just to cover that loop, and I think that'll be interesting for young entrepreneurs who are watching this. Go for it, Sonam.
Sure. So, Vishal, I would not say that it was everything that happened was as per plan. Rather, I am somebody who is not great at long-term planning. I can plan for a year, 2 years, but beyond that, it becomes uneasy for me to even put together any sort of a data based on which I can plan my life. So when it specifically comes to deciding on IIT Bombay, for me, and even for my parents, that decision started with, okay, I had some clarity on that I like science. And I would want to pursue engineering. And my parents put some efforts in figuring out which is the best place to go in India if you have to become a good engineer. And IIT came as a valid option. I was a smart student. I was academically inclined. So I could study, as in I could put myself into the discipline that is required to get into IIT. So that was done. But a lot of decisions that you make at an age of 17, 18 are not very well-informed decisions also. Say, for example, choosing which stream you want to pursue.
Why do you say
IIT.
that? Why would you say that? Was it misinformed at the time? I think it turned out all right.
I would say, no, I've turned out all right. I don't regret any of those decisions, but I think there is not enough, or at least when I made that decision, I don't think I knew enough about which direction I was going in. So it was sort of a hunch. But there was one comfort that, okay, as long as it's an IIT, and again, IIT Bombay, you can't really go too wrong with whichever stream you choose. So things like which branch to choose, whether mechanical engineering is better for me or whether chemical engineering is better for me. I don't even know what it entails being a mechanical engineer or an electrical engineer or a chemical engineer. It's only after you come into the place, you spend a couple of years when you understand what that branch of engineering actually means and how it affects your opportunities later. So that's like there is an element of hunch, just choosing something and going ahead with it. Especially in my family, we did not have too many engineers, so that I could look up to and make choices accordingly. So yeah, for me, I chose aerospace engineering primarily on the basis of it sounded cool to be an aerospace engineer.
It's still cool. A lot of people discuss that with me, and but the hardship on that is you need to know your mathematics, you need to know your physics, chemistry. It's a combination of all fields.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a phenomenal field, and I'm glad you took that. I think that a lot of those lessons would have come into Karkhana. We'll talk about that. Go on. Sorry to have interrupted, but that's interesting.
So when I was in IIT, again, IIT gives you a whole lot of opportunities and different activities to try your hands on. So I think I just went with the flow. So first year was about exploring as much as I could and figuring out what are the things I like, what I do not like. And that was sort of a good experiment and a good way to learn more about yourself. And from there, what I learned about myself is that I really love to do things hands-on, like actually getting the hands dirty and building something. So I more and more tied myself with the opportunities that required me to get my hands dirty. And one of those things was IIT Bombay Racing. And through IIT Bombay Racing, I got associated with Formula Student, and that led to building a couple of race cars in the 4 years that I
They were electric
spent
race
at
cars.
IIT. Yes.
Are they okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And how was that like? Did you guys get into a global event or something of that sort with that?
Yeah, so the entire experience was a whole lot of fun. So every year it's sort of a 10-month exercise where you're working in teams of 20 to 30 students coming together, spending all your life outside class into a lab, building things from scratch. And the end goal is that you participate in this global event called Formula Student, which has like different chapters across Europe. And you're competing with different universities. So you have more smart students that you get to interact with, learn from. So it's almost a week-long event, and everybody's trying to put their best foot forward. And rest is spoken by the product that you've spent 10 months on building. So it's more about like proving out your engineering capability than racing with the car, since it's a student event. Yeah, but hell lot of fun, hell lot of learning. And I think this event alone contributed a lot towards, my engineering acumen and overall making me passionate about engineering and choosing it as a career going ahead.
Lovely. I think I'll tell you what I liked about you is you said you chose manufacturing as a career. People who have taken IIT and perhaps gone to an MBA and perhaps gone into the marketing, branding, analyst kind of a route and ending up in a consulting firm and, going and telling people how to set up things and not have skin in the game, right? But you directly jumped into manufacturing. I wanted to talk, many Indian women don't opt for manufacturing, very few of them. I'm at the PS Engineering University. I see a lot of girls being interested in it. But then I want you to demystify certain facts, right? Firstly, about the career for women, right? That there is a career for manufacturing for women. And in fact, I was reading the other day, Sudha Murthy, right? The Infosys Foundation chairperson, right? She actually started a career in manufacturing with the Tatas way back in the 70s, right? And she talks about breaking those myths, and she wants, people to take up, especially women, to take up manufacturing in a very serious way. But are there barriers to it? I wouldn't know, but I generally, when I go to the shop floor, I see a lot more men, other than the apparel industry where I see a lot more women. But that's more like sweat labor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. So I want you to talk about your career choice. It's is it a less beaten track, right? It's something that you took consciously, or how did that change you as a person? Go for it.
So when I was speaking about IIT Bombay Racing, now it's also a very often spoken topic that in engineering schools itself, the gender ratio that we have is pretty low, right? Like it's generally 1:10, and that same holds in IITs as well. And I think some bit of it translates into the workforce as well. But being at IIT for 4 years, I think one of the things that I became very, very confident about is, and also like that was the ecosystem that I got in IIT, was that there was really no difference in opportunities that women can pursue compared to men. When we were students, engineers at IIT, there really was no gap or difference in what was available for you to try out. So same for me is what I carried forward when making career choices as well. So when PNG was an opportunity for me, I actually worked at PNG as an intern before pursuing a longer career with them. So, and that was the experiment I wanted to do for myself, to figure out how it is to work in a manufacturing company and what sort of career options can I have in such a company. And I had a ball of a time during my 2 months of internship. There was so much to learn, so many different areas, and so much exposure to teams working on a lot of a huge variety of stuff. And I really loved the culture. So, and PNG was one of those, I'd say, employers that value diversity a lot. Even during my internship, I got a flavor of that how deeply the company believed that diversity brings out the best in the performance of the company. And given that I found that sort of a comfort that if I have to be a woman engineer in a manufacturing company like PNG, my gender is really not going to play any
were you in the shop floor,
differential role.
Sonam, at the time? Were you in the shop floor?
So actually, during the internship, it's about exploring a lot of different things. So the assignment that I had during those 2 months required me to be on the shop floor for 2 weeks, working with the design team for a few weeks, and then being able to apply what I get to learn. So it was quite a holistic experience that way. But when I joined them full time after graduating, I started in I would say an engineering role where I was not directly working on the shop floor, but rather operations was in a way my customer. So I was building engineering models that could improve the efficiency of the plants. But then in my second assignment, I moved to the manufacturing shop floor into manufacturing of sanitary napkins based in Goa, and was working hands-on on building capacity within the plant.
Okay. So you mentioned increasing efficiency of a plant, right? That's such an important word. A lot of us disregard that phrase itself, right? I think manufacturing plants have to work on efficient capacity. And how did the idea, now I want to straight away go into your idea. And in 2018, when you took this plunge into entrepreneurship, you have guides who told you that let's do this. Obviously, by 2018, we had SaaS as a business become big. People are talking B2C platforms, B2B platforms were also coming to the fore. How did this happen? I mean, were you somebody who always wanted to start up, or did somebody come and tell you, did a mentor come and say, look, here are the gaps. You understand manufacturing, you understand how business works. So let's create a platform for manufacturing in India. Nobody's thought about it. Everybody talks about trading. Nobody talks about manufacturing. It's a subtle term that I'll bring in those points as we speak, right? I'll tell the audience that what are you doing in this business, right? Go in immediately into how this idea popped into your head. Was there a mentor who changed your life?
So it was very experience-based for me. So when in my second assignment in PNG, which was in Goa, in the sanitary napkin factory, I was responsible for localization of certain equipment, and was as a part of that activity was working with a few suppliers here to figure out manufacturing of certain key components. And that experience turned out to be way more challenging than I assumed it would be. And there was a lot of focus to be able to make more and more in India, like build more and more capital equipment in India. But we didn't really get the kind of turnaround that we wanted as a team. And those challenges got me thinking that for a company as big as PNG, if such problems lie, what would it be for, say, smaller companies? So I sort of, out of my curiosity, started speaking to some friends who were working in other companies, trying to figure out how their sourcing experience goes when they have to build custom parts or products. And everybody sort of spoke about same challenges, that it's very unorganized. It takes a lot of micromanagement, and that's why large companies put large sourcing teams in place to solve this problem. And small companies still struggle because they don't have so many resources in place. And so that sort of directionally put me into that, why is nobody solving this particular problem in India? And it's been around not like for 3-4 years, like for decades, we've been working in a similar fashion. So it was, again, not a planned thing that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and was actively looking for ideas. But the problem was so close to my work that I sort of got consumed in figuring out how this could be solved. And when I thought like it was a big enough problem, I decided it needs work and decided to take an exit from PNG, moved to Mumbai again because here I feel I have a better ecosystem, and just got into it in a problem solving mode, and which then turned into a startup that I thought I'd dedicate at least a decade towards working and building.
No, more than that, I wish such a thing exists for a longer period of time. I think, like you said, we've been working on a problem for decades without having solved this. I'll tell you why she's important, ladies and gentlemen. I think all the SMEs, okay, they have problems with CNC machining. They can't get them on time. Okay, most of them are, sub vendors, and they have to make sure that they deliver the product in time to the larger OEMs. Sheet metal fabrication, pardon me, is also another problem, right? So I think when you talk about welding, assembly, CNC bending, which is what some of the SMB problems are, you need to find these people quick and fast if you have to reach the market on time. And I think with you, Sonam, coming in, right, the credit cycles, the payment cycles to these guys can get better because they're now delivering the product on time thanks to you, right? So was that the early idea? Did you say that, okay, this is how the process would work? I aggregate everybody. People come and put in the demand of what they want manufactured, and then I can give a delivery timeline to all this based on the specifications. What are the 2-3 things that it results in? One of them would be timely delivery to the OEM, like I said. Does it become better credit cycles, better credit from banks because of this? Now, what type of process flow works in your organization? And it's the power of the data we are talking about here. And what are some of the objectives that you want to achieve?
Sure. So the main premise where it all started for me was that every company wants to accelerate their go-to-market because they figure out that they have an opportunity in the market, and the faster they capture it, the more benefit they can get out of being there on time. So providing companies a way to control their go-to-market and predictably be able to reach the market on time through this manufacturing platform was one of the objectives, or one of the main objectives I had behind this. Now, when you start looking at things as a sum of a lot of different interactions happening to make this one thing possible, it's important that you also create a single source of truth. So when I was talking to companies in my groundwork about the challenges they face, they spoke a lot about micromanagement, right? Like a lot of things happen on calls, a lot of things happen on emails. There is a lot of misinformation, no transparency. So first thing was that we need to create a single source of truth. There is a lot of data that moves in this entire activity where sourcing engineers or sourcing teams send their designs to suppliers. They receive some information from them. They would receive information from multiple suppliers, would process it, take decisions. There are factors influencing decisions, and there may be multiple decision makers. Then they communicate to the supplier they choose to go ahead with, whereas other suppliers that they did not choose to go ahead with may not even come to know what happened. And that also creates resistance for the ones who did not get informed about lost opportunity. So again, on the supplier side, once the order gets confirmed, there is again a lot of information transfer happening. So, and a lot of times this information transfer happens on different mediums. So first of all, if we can create one single source of truth where right from an opportunity coming in all the way till the opportunity gets delivered, every information is linked to each other and there is a synchronized flow of that data, that will make lives of everybody in that activity much, much simpler and much, much efficient. So that was one part to it. Now, coming to that, while doing this, we also need to be making business sense for the suppliers who we are aggregating here, for them to be patient and participating in this process. So it was really, really necessary that it brings business gains to them. So, and business gains can come in different ways, right? One is if they can do more with their existing capacity. Everybody wants to do more with their existing capacity, but say misses the acumen, the managerial acumen that is required to make right decisions in how they plan their material, how they plan their production. They can't afford to hire like a lot of learned MBA folks to help them out with that. If Karkhana.io could develop solutions for them to make better decisions on the shop floor, and they can do more with their installed capacity, that is one way of increasing business. Second is that they have unutilized capacity, and they are right now limited to the geographies that they are operating in or the single industry that they're operating in. Can having an understanding of what sort of capacity they have, Karkhana.io unlocks newer opportunities from many different geographies that they right now can't access. That is another way of growing business for them.
Yeah.
Third, as you said, is access to faster payments, better capital. That is another way, an opportunity for them to grow their business. So for us, it was about peeling one layer at a time, and first of all, building the trust with the supplier ecosystem that their lives would get better when they start working with Karkhana.io. And what is their most pressing problem that first of all gets a lot lower because of the single source of truth coming into existence. And then is how we improve their capability, their technical capability to do more. So that's been our focus area of how we help suppliers get better business.
Okay, just high-end numbers. How many people have you served so far? And what is, like you said, the 300K manufacturers, the demand, and there is demand, the supply is not utilized properly, right?
Yeah.
So which is what you're solving. How many people have you served so far? So I see on your website that some of the large firms have come to you as well.
Yeah.
How many people would, what is the size of the business that can come to you? Can a smallest of businesses come to you and say that I have a prototype to build? Can you build it? Can somebody build this for me? Would you manage that too?
Yeah. So first of all, till now, we have served more than 200 businesses of different sizes. When we started off, we were working more with smaller businesses because it was hard to get a foot in the door with large businesses when you yourself are a newly started company. And gradually, we have now built trust with larger enterprises as well. While working with these 200 plus customers, the way we have grown our ecosystem of suppliers. So today we work with 500 odd suppliers across India. And coming to, where can a very small business come to us, and if they need a prototype, would we build it? Yes, we would, because that was one of the very important, I'd say, problem statement or pain point that we wanted to solve from the very beginning. Not having quantity as a barrier for anybody to move to the next step in their go-to-market journey. And so be it a single quantity, be it 10 units, 100 units, few lakh units, Karkhana.io would figure the right solution that would work with them, irrespective of what volume they want to build at. And the solutions might differ between a single unit and say 100 units, but there is a solution. And that's where, the depth of manufacturing lies, that today we have a solution for any volume. If you want to figure it out, Karkhana.io is the place to figure it out.
That's amazing. That means a lot of people can come and build prototypes. The IoT businesses, all of them.
Yes.
Right? That's phenomenal. Okay, let's go to audience questions, because that's where the fun begins, right? There's so many of them, about 9 or 10 of them. We'll try to curate them, or there'll be more. Keep asking questions, because it's about you. If you're a manufacturer, you're the one who has to ask the question, okay? And she's going to answer it. I'm trying to go and I'll probably try to shape it better for her and get her to answer it, okay? So here's Ashwin, who says, Karkhana is a team of bright youngsters, none of whom are about the age of about 35. I never asked you your age, Sonam, so I don't know how he got that from, okay? So I'm just guessing that they're from your team or one of your friends. I don't know. Here's the question. Were there any moments you thought experienced seniors could have helped your company? Because Manufacturing is one of the oldest industries in the world. And do you have any mentors and experienced seniors guiding you?
In fact, when we started off, and in fact, like until a year ago, I think I was the oldest person in the company, and
Okay.
but things have grown and changed in the last 1 year quite rapidly. Now we are no more only freshmen or very young
Got it.
people. We have in fact a lot of age diversity in the company. We have people in their late 40s in the company, and the reason was that as we grew in terms of the problems that we were solving for our customers, as those problems grew bigger, some of those problems required experience to solve.
Got it.
And whenever it was the right time, we brought in that experience to be able to solve those problems faster. Because here our commitment to the customer is speed, and the only way we can deliver on that is when we have the knowledge to deliver that speed. So yeah, we brought that knowledge in.
Okay, this is a director of a kitchen manufacturing company or a kitchen appliances interiors company also. His name is Arjun. The company is called Ozo Kitchens. Okay, how do you deal with the language barrier in this industry, especially when you work with these SMBs, right? What are some of the problems you encounter while you talk to SMBs across India? How do you cut across the language barrier? It's a very interesting question, right? But I thought manufacturing was all about the numbers and the specifications, and that's the language. It's a language of numbers and preciseness. But I'll let you answer it, Sonam.
So actually, though what matters, a lot of things that matter are around numbers and the size of business. But while doing this, what you're actually solving for is people, right? And being a very diverse country, we do face those language barriers. And the way we have gone about solving it is actually having people on team who have familiarity with those different regions and those different languages. Because ultimately, we first have to get through the language barrier to be able to communicate and convince each other of the value that we would be bringing to their business, and our suppliers bringing the value to our business. And we have to keep language out of that equation. So the way we have solved it is got talent from different regions into the company who can speak the language of our suppliers and move to the next step.
The more questions, I mean, that's phenomenal. I love this, guys. I love the energy. Keep the questions coming. This is Sham. What are some of the processes and methodologies in place in Karkhana to ensure that there is no compromise in quality with the promised delivery timelines?
Yeah,
good question.
Yeah, a really good question. So it's not been easy for us to figure out quality. Like, in fact, very early on, we made a lot of mistakes because we ourselves were learning how to build quality systems. But again, if we have to get it right for our customers and we are taking the onus of quality, we need to have the right processes in place. And the way we have gone about it is, one, make our suppliers our partners in quality. So the first level of quality has to be met at the supplier's end, and making sure that they recognize the ownership of quality when they're working with us. And in order to make sure that there is no communication difference between what the customer wants and what the supplier can deliver, that's where our processes come into picture. So we actually spend a lot of time establishing the right manufacturing process flow with the suppliers before anything gets into manufacturing, gets loaded onto the machine. And that is required because we want to get it right the first time. So be it all the quality control parameters, they are communicated a lot in detail with the suppliers. And the first check of quality happens at their end. Having said that, because we are working with a lot of suppliers on a lot of different projects, we still need to have checks and balances in place beyond supplier quality as well. So that's where we've built our internal quality team that takes care of the second round of quality control. And only when everything is passed through our quality team is when it processes to delivery.
Okay. This is my question. When did you realize there's going to be critical mass in this? Did you have to do early validation yourself? Did you invest your own money in this? How did that happen? How did you make sure that there's enough runway for you to experiment and then raise money? Because you have raised money. You can talk about your investors if you like. That critical mass for a startup is very important when you test your idea. This is also because a lot of college students watch this. I want them to know that you build something, it can't be a product forever. It has to go to market. So between the money that they spend personally or if they raise seed money, what is the go-to-market if it's a product like yours? How fast do you have to be there? How fast should it be validated? Go on, Sonam.
Yeah. Actually, you're right about it. So for us, we were bootstrapped for quite some time, which means that the initial capital that went into the business was my savings that I made at PNG. And that was also something that I'd already been calculative about and planned a bit on what sort of choices it would require me to make if I'm going to start this company. And but a lot of other things that we had to keep iterating, keep pivoting on is what I would want to focus more on. So when you, for a startup like us, like we are not an R&D based company, right? So we can't say spend 5 years to validate what we are doing, or rather to identify whether what we are doing is a fit or not. So it took a lot of different experiments to figure out whether what we are doing is a real need and people will pay us for what we are doing. And the way we went about it is start with a small group of companies who we had familiarity with. Like if we were a team of 4 people, everybody has certain connects. Some uncle working in some company who can help us put in touch with the right team there who would want to source something through us. So initially we did everything manually. Whatever we wanted to digitalize, we are like, we'll put a person to it and run around how much ever we have to run around. Even if all 4 of us have to sit in one factory each and get it done, we'll get it done. And at least identify what it takes to do such a work. Yeah, it did. Like, in fact, all of us, like we've spent days at manufacturers getting things right. And doing this for a few months, we identified where the crux of the problem lies. And when we started with a blank slate, we didn't really know which industries to focus on. But after doing these things over and over again, we identified, we've worked with 20 projects. 18 of those have been of these kinds. And these 2 are outliers. We don't need to work on outliers. Let's just focus on where we see most of the traction coming from. And now build next level for this specific pivot that we are going to make. So it's been about shedding off a lot of things along the way and focusing on more and more narrow things and identifying where we would be able to prove more impact. So that's how we went about it. And I think when we had identified the right...
you didn't run out of savings by then, right? I mean, there's a lot of hard work out there.
Oh, so actually...
You must have had nightmares, right? I mean, when am I going to get...
We had, like, our most stressful time was during COVID. So I was trying to raise, I was rather starting my fundraising process in Feb 2020. And by March, COVID was here in the country. And all of those plans sort of went to the back burner because now we had to rethink survival of the company, and fundraising was not visible anywhere in the horizon. So we again made a pivot. So we figured out, okay, we are a manufacturing company. We know how to manufacture using certain processes. We have a lot of suppliers who are also out of business, at least till we get some clarity. We figured like there are a lot of products that the country is short on and really needs manufacturing power on that. We identified those products. Our entire sales team shifted their focus on identifying those companies which needed to build products like RT-PCR kits, masks, face shields, and we put all our strength into working with our suppliers also to align with those products, change their systems wherever required, because we needed to extend our runway. And doing that for 6 months, I think we landed in a good spot, that we were able to survive in a bootstrapped mode through that entire
I think it's the
entire
mark
time
of
period.
leadership, right? It's you who didn't want to give up. You could have given up if you wanted at the time. You talk about that first fundraiser. How many people did you pitch to before they really thought that this is something that it's a very Indian problem you're solving? I think it's a very Asian problem that you're solving too, and it can in fact go into Africa or even Europe in many cases. Your idea. Who championed you? Who championed you, and how did the ball, turn in your favor? How did it fall in your court to say that, look, I'm in control of things now, right? COVID or no COVID, you had to go raise money. Go on.
So one of the really good things that happened during COVID is we got supported by ACT grants. So ACT was a group where there were a lot of different VCs who were giving their time and their energy into finding out solutions that can help with the COVID situation in the country. And since we had made this pivot and we're putting our manufacturing might behind PPEs, behind other COVID relevant solutions from a manufacturing standpoint, we got exposed to a lot of VCs then, and who really liked what we were doing and actually came face to face with a manufacturing solution there, right? Like there were a lot of different solutions working out. So it piqued their interest. And when the time was right, I think having those active conversations with a lot of VCs, telling them about the ground reality, the problems that we were solving, and the resilience that our team was able to build in that tough time. Think about the opportunities we can unlock when we have more resources with us. And with those connects, I think in the month of September, when the COVID had also gotten mild after the first wave, we were having more active conversations with the VCs. And I think I must have still pitched to around 20 plus VCs then. And Vertex was, they had a lot of conviction here and they moved fast. And it showed in the trust that they placed in the team, and the way they showed their excitement towards the opportunity that such a solution can bring into the country. And I think it was sort of the excitement that we both the sides could feel. And they partnered very early with us. Lovely.
There's so many questions to answer. Let's try to answer them quickly. If we can, we'll try, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, these are good ones, but Suraj asks, how do your factories look? Are they clean? Are they certified? So I don't know why they asked this question, but he typically wants to know what's a shop floor like in Karkhana on a day-to-day basis. Now, perhaps he's asking about if you have your own, I don't know. Or perhaps he's asking about the companies that are affiliated to you. Are they certified? Are they world class? Typically, how do the shop floors look, and what particular industry do they cater to?
So here it's quite a mixed bag. So first of all, we don't own any of the factories ourselves, right? Like we have supply partners. And our suppliers also range from very small businesses all the way to medium-sized businesses. Correct. And depending upon the size, the capability, the capacity they have, the kind of establishments, the physical establishments they have also vary. Some might be ultra clean, ultra organized, and have some systems in place. And as a matter of certifications, also have the ISO certifications or other industry relevant certifications in place, which talk about the quality systems that they already have. And that would, I would say, is not the picture of the entire 100% of factories we work with. We also work with very small factories of, say, a 2 crore turnover, which might not be ISO certified. But what we focus on is that, are they quality focused? They might not have the certification in place, but do they have the right things in place to meet the quality that we need? So especially when it comes to building prototypes, we can't expect a large production focused factory to stop their production and build a prototype for us. So there we are required to work with shop floors that are more agile. And now it brings into picture what sort of quality systems can Karkhana ensure with the capacity that our suppliers bring and make the whole equation work. So I'll not say it's like a super clean factory everywhere. So, but
Yeah,
it differs region to region,
but
scale
it's
to scale.
it's a work in progress, right? We're getting there, especially with Make in India. Is it really taking precedence, Make in India? Is it becoming real, or is it Assemble in India that's taking precedence today?
No, in fact, there is a lot of focus on Make in India, especially when it comes to import localization. Now, with different policies that are presented almost on a weekly basis, you hear about new government policies coming in place, right, to foster more manufacturing here. And so the companies are focusing on moving all their components that they were importing and figuring out what size of it can be manufactured in India. It may still not be like a 100%, but we have to make small steps. Second is that there are a lot of there's a lot of demand coming from outside India. And companies looking to invest in other geographies to augment their supply. And India comes out as a very strong contender there, given the manufacturing capability we have here. So from that side, there's a lot of movement.
Okay. This is a question on the business model. This is Shama who says, okay, when we sign up with you and get things done, how much do you charge by doing that? I mean, how sustainable is your business? Is it a low margin business, high margin business? I think of you as a technology company, right? Is it subscription? I'm personally asking this, but how does it work? Shama says, how does the business model work for you? Quickly.
Yeah, so it's not a subscription business. We have a take rate on every order that we accomplish for our customers. So for our customers, Karkhana.io is the supplier, and for our suppliers, we are the buyer. So we have a take rate in the middle. Increasingly, we try to make our solution work for our customers in such a way that it comes at price parity with respect to the cost that they currently have on manufacturing. It's about doing things more efficiently so that we can afford a take rate in the middle.
Okay, the take rate is a function of the number of orders you place?
It's a function of the size of the order that the companies place.
Okay.
So if it's a very small prototyping order, we would have a higher take rate compared to a mass manufacturing order. Okay.
This is a question from Nidhi. She talks about sustainability. And let me try to paraphrase this for you. It's a long question. Sustainability is of essence for the future. Yes, agreed. What are some practices carried out at Karkhana to ensure zero wastage and maximum efficiency? Because it can act as a good brownie point for these SMBs to go and raise global funds because now they're clean, zero emission, and they get a good narrative around it. Can you ensure that for them? That's a good question.
Yeah, so now when we are working with SMBs, wastage happens in a lot of different forms. And one of those forms is quality. So specifically speaking about quality, though, like we would focus on the quality that is getting delivered to our customers. What is happening on the shop floor to meet that quality is very, very essential. To simplify it, so say if you're making 1 lakh units, and out of that only being able to deliver 50,000 units that meet quality, rest 50,000 go to waste, and they're generating some sort of waste, right? It can be in terms of fuels that went into into that wastage, even the material, something can be recycled, something can't be recycled. It's about how we figure out the processes in place that instead of a high amount of wastage going in there, we get the right processes in place so that out of 1 lakh units, if possible, 1 lakh units are made of quality in the first time. And getting closer and closer to getting the quality right the first time, that reduces wastage for us. And that's something that is in immediate control of what Karkhana.io can do for the suppliers. And so that's where we are focusing on how to reduce the manufacturing wastage that goes towards delivering quality parts.
Right. This is a question from a student I know for the fact that he is, because he's also building a startup at our center. His name is Kiriti Kapavari. And he says you also look into end-to-end production management for startups and prototyping. And how does that work? Do you have a separate rate for startups? Do you have a separate rate for student entrepreneurs? Is that something that you look at?
So we do, as I said, we have a soft corner for young entrepreneurs and startups. And in fact, at a lot of times, if there is any sort of handholding required to get their designs to a stage where they can scale for manufacturing, our engineering team works very closely with them. And that's something that currently we do without any charge for young startup entrepreneurs. And even in terms of prototyping, say if we are tied up with an incubator and there are startups incubated there, we would manufacture for them at a discount, because the intent is that more and more companies, more and more young startups should have the facility available to iterate frequently and get to the product market fit. And we will do all that is possible for us to help them with that.
Okay.
So that's how our team helps.
Okay. How can they get in touch with you? Do you mentor people? But ladies and gentlemen, that's Karkhana.io. That's Karkhana.io is the website. Go check them out. Sonam is the CEO and founder there. Do you find time to mentor people? I mean, are you at least looking at the startup ecosystem? The reason I ask this is you want people to come into manufacturing. Is there space for younger kids to get into manufacturing? It's so capital intensive as it is, right? I mean, you look at software companies, they get funded off the bat. But every time you talk about manufacturing, you either have to take a loan, right? Or raise money from friends and family, or you need to be highly connected with the government. You need to have you need to be able to pull a lot of strings if you're into manufacturing. But the golden age of Indian manufacturing began with automotive and the public sector units before that, right? They were the ones who created the vendor ecosystems.
Right.
Somewhere, I think we've become laggards in this. Is that going to change at all? And hence your mentorship matters a lot to several of them. I'm sure a lot of people write to me saying, can I connect with Sonam? And what are your thought processes on this on a larger 10 to 15 year timeline? I know it's too long, but 10 years come by like this. I mean, when I was reporting about the B2C industry and B2B industry, last 10 years, suddenly everybody wants the Kirana stores. Nobody wanted them 10 years ago. Suddenly it's all about data, fintech, right?
Yeah.
Things change. Things are changing rapidly. And I hope something happens for manufacturing. Your thoughts on this, please.
Yeah. See, when we look at a larger horizon, we might not see much change, say, happening in a few months, or like in that short span, we might not see manufacturing going through a lot of transformation, because it's a tough industry to solve.
Yeah, like software manufacturing takes time. Yeah.
It does take time, and it does take a lot of capital as well. And rightly so, because when you have to build, fail, rebuild a hardware product, it does not only need a laptop. You need to be putting money towards building prototypes. Some of those might fail. You again put money into building more prototypes and go getting better at that. And it does not come cheap. But at the same time, as the ecosystem is evolving, as there are newer and newer technologies to make prototyping simpler, technologies like 3D printing, technologies like vacuum casting, more and more development happening toward other CNC processes, it's also becoming cheaper and more viable to prototype now. 3D printing costs even 2 years ago were at least double of what they are today. And that's the transformation that we have seen at Karkhana.io. So there has been like this sort of democratization has actually helped in bringing down the costs. And the more prevalence we bring to it, it is going to get simpler. And rest is something that companies like Karkhana.io are also working towards, that how do we tie the ecosystem together so that the discovery itself becomes simpler and the teams, young teams who are building do not spend a lot of time in the discovery process itself. So making that knowledge available is where the mentorship part comes in, and helping with the right decision making at the right step of prototyping is where I think we play a role. And it's a matter of the next 3-4 years. I think once there are more examples of world-class products coming out of India, there will be more and more limelight coming into the ecosystem here. And a lot of it is also about people taking those risks. It's sometimes it becomes a hearsay that hardware is hard and that's why you should not be doing it. But if there are enough people also trying to develop the ecosystem, like we've seen this change in the last 5 years. There are so many companies building EVs in the country.
Yeah, who would have come to that?
Who would have imagined that people would brave up to compete against established automotive companies and build vehicles from scratch, like thinking from first principles. But now there are so many EV startups wanting to do that and challenging the status quo and taking those risks. And because we have identified that that is the need of the hour, we need to be building those products for the country and for the world here in India. So the ecosystem changes. It's about a critical mass taking that risk and moving forward.
Guys, you should try Karkhana.io because they have digitized the entire experience of quotation to ordering through the web app, right? That's what you've done in an easy fashion. I think we should take a few more questions. Sonam, I usually close by now, but there's so many more questions. Let's get them answered because I think it's very critical to have this knowledge out. This is about student startups. Should they start up at all in manufacturing? At least IP-led design, owning design. They can outsource the manufacturing to somebody else, but they can own the IP made out of India, but the IP owned in India too is possible, right? Would you advise them to start up from college? Or would you say that if you want to get into manufacturing, go out there, work in an industry, and then get into anything that you want? We talk about health tech. We talk about EV, right? EV is a big thing. And the fact that there's several areas of manufacturing that one can get into. Robotics is one thing. Like, do you see that as a good option right from college if you have this idea? Would you say get experience before you start?
I would say it's never too early to start up. And worst thing that can happen is, okay, you fail, but even that failure brings in so many learnings that you can reapply later when you want to take the second chance. But at the same time, if there are a lot of unknowns that anybody has in their startup journey, and especially when they are in college, I think internships are a really good way, and internships with startups are a really good way to get a lot of hands-on experience and learn about the mistakes that you would be making. Because now there are so many startup opportunities and so many mistakes happening, so many learnings happening, that by being a part of that process, you can learn a lot from those mistakes and then go about building your own startup. So I would say the best possible way to learn fast and put the right things in place is go do an internship with a startup and see how they're doing.
I would love you to come to Bangalore and chat to the college that I'm at, simply because we give $200,000 to students who start up in manufacturing. Isn't that phenomenal? I don't think.
Oh, yeah.
I think my time was no money at all. That's huge. Yeah. So you should come over and lecture us at some point. I'd love to host you. There's a couple of more questions, if you don't mind, from people. This is Pankaj, who says, with highly volatile markets for raw material sourcing and others, do you have any practices in place to eliminate price hikes, based on global movements?
So this is actually, that's quite true. Right now, the times we are in, there is a lot of volatility in the prices, and there are so many other global events that are influencing these prices. So as much as we can control, especially on the projects where we have more repeatability and recurring orders, so we use that predictability and uh, safeguard or lock prices with the suppliers who we work with. Maybe like buy in bulk because you're going to be using this material even 6 months from now. So like we take those steps and safeguard our interest when the uncertainty is there, especially for all the lot of common materials that come into use every now and then.
Yeah, don't worry about the smartphone, because I think somebody's timed your interview, right? Just called up just at 6 o'clock, but I can't end it because there's one more question for you to answer. And two more actually. This is from Kavya. She says, what are some of the competitive advantages you provide that are essential to SMBs? It's just access, right? It's access, timeliness, which you spoke about. Isn't that so?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if that SMB angle is coming from the buyer perspective, like the customer perspective, or to the suppliers.
Let's. I think she doesn't say that, but she says, I think let's talk about it from the person who wants to get something manufactured.
Yeah. So see, when we look at SMBs as a customer, they also don't have a lot of resources or a large team to put in place for sourcing. So one is that, do you focus on the core of the business, or do you put your resources to doing things which actually can be outsourced? So we help them, again, work more efficiently, get more out of the small teams that they could deploy on focusing on the core, and they can outsource their entire supply chain processes to us. So consider it more like an extended group of smart engineers working for you, who would figure it out for you, than you having to put your key resources towards doing this. So that's the advantage we provide to them, that even if they are not a very large company and have limited resources, they can still have access to really good supply partners without spending too much time doing that.
Got it. And my last question is my question. Books and recommendations for people to be inspired by. They should be inspired by you, but what would you read to inspire yourself, and what would you recommend to us?
So actually, there are a lot of books that I have really enjoyed. Something with respect to manufacturing that I really enjoy a lot, and I have actually given a copy to a lot of people in my team as well, is The Goal by Goldratt. It's a very old book, but very well written and gives a good flavor of manufacturing. So it's not a textbook, though it explains like manufacturing, project management in great detail, but it's been beautifully written like a novel, though touches first principles like any textbook would. So really love that. If anybody wants to get an understanding.
Right?
Goldratt. The Goal by Goldratt.
Yeah, The Goal by Goldratt. Right. What are first principles to you? It's a philosophic, it's a Greek kind of a thing. That what are first principles to you? What does it mean to you?
I think this is also something to do with a lot of understanding I have built after I became an entrepreneur, is that at the heart of every problem, however big the problem is, lies people. And I think if you solve for the people who are getting affected by the problem, most of the time the problem turns out to be very small. Sometimes we take use of a lot of processes here and there and start layering things up without really targeting that one person or two people whose dynamics that between themselves are not working out very well, and that's creating the whole plethora of problems around. So for me, it's all the problems that we face in any workplace on a day-to-day basis have to do with people. So solve for people and problems disappear.
No, you're wonderful, Sonam. Thank you for all this. And I wish Karkhana.io all the best. I know this is not our last association. There's going to be more interviews with Sonam this year. We're going to be talking to several more people in our community. And check out Karkhana.io simply because you SMBs need people to come and manufacture for you on time. And what I would suggest you is check out the website. Again, it's Karkhana.io. If you want to understand sheet metal fabrication, if you want to go into CNC machining capabilities, a whole range of services starting from 3D printing to injection molding, they're all there. Sonam, thank you for being on Pebble by Co-Create. And I look forward to hosting you soon again.
Thank you so much, Vishal. This is lovely.
Lovely.